On today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the new version of the Star Wars arcade machine released by Arcade1up. Do I have a bad feeling about this? Or is the force strong with this one? That's coming up right now on Bill's Retro Gaming Show. Alright, thank you so much for tuning in. Before we dive in on this cabinet, let's get a brief history on the games themselves. The first Star Wars game was originally released in the arcades in 1983. It was developed and published by Atari. The game has you piloting an X-Wing fighter as Luke Skywalker and is meant to help you relive the attack on the Death Star scene from the end of the original movie. It uses vector graphics similar to other Atari games like Asteroids, Major Havoc, and Tempest. The game also makes heavy use of voice, allowing you to hear encouragement from Ben Kenobi telling you to use the Force, or Vader saying the Force is strong with this one. It was available in the arcades in both an upright version and a sit-down cockpit version, which added to the immersive feeling of actually piloting an X-Wing fighter. 2 years later, in 1985, Atari would introduce The Empire Strikes Back. Playing very similar to the original, and also utilizing vector graphics, this one has you reliving scenes from the movie such as the battle on Hoth and the Millennium Falcon's escape through an asteroid field. The game was primarily sold to arcades as a conversion kit to the original Star Wars arcade machine. The third game in the series, Return of the Jedi, actually came out before Empire Strikes Back in 1984. Okay, so technically it's the second game in the series, but, it follows the story of the third movie. This game does away with the vector graphics in favor of raster graphics. In the game, you'll pilot a speeder bike on Endor and take on the second Death Star in the Millennium Falcon. All three games used a flight yoke with trigger and fire buttons on it, making for a unique play experience. Now, this is not the first time that Arcade1up has done a cabinet based on these three games. The original version was released in October of 2019, and many people who owned one consider it among the best of Arcade1up's 3/4 scale arcade machines. Now, that version has been unavailable for some time now, so there was a lot of hype for them to do a re-release of this game. And that's exactly what they did in January of this year. They re-released what is basically the same machine that came out in 2019, with a few minor upgrades. And while many people thought they might reskin this for one of the other two games, this version is still modeled after the original Star Wars arcade machine. The side art is very similar, but this time extends down into the riser to feel even closer to the original arcade. The Marquee looks good, but it does seem a little bit bright in the middle. Now, one complaint from the original release was that the wire for the LED that lights the Marquee was visible from the inside. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case here. Now, unfortunately, this video is probably not doing it justice, but the screen looks great on this with deep blacks and vibrant colors, especially for the two vector games. The flight yoke used here is the same as the original release, which is fine. It works well for these games, and really, I have no complaints for how it controls. Gone from the original version is the games list on the front of the cabinet. In its place is a molded coin door with light-up buttons. Now, the buttons are non-functional, but the fact that they light up is a nice touch and something I hope Arcade1up continues to do for more of their machines. So what you've really got here is the same release as the original, with better slide art, a slightly upgraded Marquee, and the inclusion of a faux coin door. Now, there may have also been some slight tweaks to the graphics of the user interface compared to the original, but since I don't have that one, I can't say exactly what they are. I'm actually just basing that off of what I've heard from others who've compared the two. So, while all of this is good and makes for a great cab, there are a few things missing that I wish they had done here. First off, I really wish they had updated this to include Wi-Fi and online leaderboards. I think it would have been a great upgrade to allow people to compare their scores against each other online. Also, with the announcement of the riserless deluxe cabs, it is a shame that this one wasn't designed to fit that new form factor. Now, my understanding regarding this is that this was originally scheduled to be released at the end of last year, and this design has been in place since before the deluxe cabs came about. But due to issues with some of the releases at the end of last year, this one got pushed back. I almost wish they'd held it back just a little bit longer and redesigned it to be a deluxe. So, as I said earlier, this comes with the same 3 games as the previous release. Now, each game has their own set of options, so that you can play the games the way you like. Now, I really appreciate the fact that they've included options to change the vector glow. While I personally think leaving it on standard looks the best, the option to change them is a nice touch. And for Return of the Jedi, you do have the option for scan lines on and off as well. If you're familiar with the original arcade machines, or even Arcade1up's first release of these games, then there won't be any surprises when it comes to playing them. All 3 games play great and are a lot of fun. The flight yoke works well and is one of the features that makes this machine unique and a change from the typical joystick button games. Now overall, and despite a few missed opportunities, this is a great release from Arcade1up, and one I'm glad I picked up. I was always disappointed that I missed out on the first release, so picking this one up for me was a no-brainer. Now, if you own the original, is there anything here compelling enough to make you want to upgrade? In my opinion, not really. Unless you absolutely love the aesthetic changes made to this one over the first release, then I really can't see a reason for it. If, however, like me, you missed out on it the first time around, then this is one you should absolutely consider. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, please consider subscribing. And if you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button as well. Also, feel free to leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. That's going to do it for now, and I'll see you on the next one. And of course, may the Force be with you.
Strong.